1, 2,
Standing
go.
by.
Everybody, you're listening to and possibly watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
And we are your hairy heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy heavy homo to listen in or possibly stream in. And we all went to the movies.
We did. Not at the same time, but we did all go.
Oh, we did. We did see the film. We saw the same film. And of course, that film is Deadpool and Wolverine. Get this, the 34th entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I mean, is it technically, or is it kind of a weird sort of
It's
hybrid?
an MCU film. No, it's an MCU film. It is officially an MCU film, and we can talk about that as we move on.
And also the first, and so far only, R-rated one.
Yes. Yes.
Because ratings mean something, I guess, for anybody who's under the age of.
I'm just trying to think. Was there? Because I think they were planning on Blade being the first.
Yeah.
The revived Blade, and then that got pushed back.
And back.
So it's hilarious that you mentioned that. Today is my niece's 17th birthday, and we were vacationing together this weekend. And the one thing that she asked her mom was if she could go to the movies by herself to see Deadpool and Wolverine because it was a rated R movie and she could get in by herself because she's 17. And I was just like, wait, what? Like, I forgot that that's a thing that people have to contend with now.
Oh.
So, but yeah, she wanted to go see it, and she is 17 and can get into the R-rated movie by herself, and she wanted to just, flex her adulthood. And I'm just like, no, child, get in the back seat.
Do you guys remember the first R-rated film you saw?
Oh, no, I don't.
I do, because it's a funny story behind it. My first R-rated film was Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke, because my dad really wanted to see it, and the only time he got to see movies was with me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he knew my mother wouldn't go for it. So since I read the book of Watership Down, we told her that I went to see Watership Down with him. And so if she grilled me, I could say, what transpired, and he bribed me with Kenner action figures. So I kind of got like a mini stormtrooper army out of it.
That's kind of amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was also like the first time. It was also like the first time I saw my dad like take a toke, because there were so many joints being passed around in the audience.
In the theater,
it's a little weird, yeah.
Drug use,
like that couldn't happen now, and it makes me a little
sad. Not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
No.
Oh man, I remember the first midnight movie I saw in New York City was Dawn of the Dead at the Gramercy Theater, and you could not help but get a contact high. I mean, those doors open, and it was like your eyes just went red in like seconds. It would never happen today. It would never, ever happen today.
Interestingly enough, the last few stadium shows I've gone to, I noticed that no one was token up in the stadium. Outside concerts, yes. Stadium concerts, no.
Oh,
yeah,
they slammed that stuff down pretty quickly.
Yeah, like I saw people passing around edibles, so people were still getting stoned.
Well,
but there was no smoke.
Yeah, I saw.
I mean, you really can't smoke cigarettes in those kind of venues either. Like, I mean, it's just any kind of like. I'm surprised that some people might not have tried to sneak in a vapor 10, but
Yeah.
you know, even still.
No, I saw a girl like three chances and out at Gorillas, and we had good seats for that. So that also like doesn't compute. Like you're spending this much money, and you're gonna get kicked out for something like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Don't get kicked out of a concert or a movie theater. It's just uncool.
Yeah.
But so the movie that we're talking about is, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
It is the third Deadpool film,
Mm-hmm.
and technically also, and I know you mentioned this is a 34th MCU film. It's also technically the last Fox film officially, even though it's not Fox. But I think they started talking about it before Disney bought Fox.
Yeah,
because of the popularity and the success of Deadpool 2.
Well,
Yeah.
There was going to be a third movie, but then of course the purchase happened and the merger, and
we'll get into it more, but they did have to have Fox, sign off on a lot of stuff because they used a lot of Fox stuff in this.
yeah, but
I mean,
Disney
they own it.
Yeah,
They own all the rights now. So
yeah.
So technically, except for the stuff that Sony still has the rights to, as Tom Holland was famously quoted as saying, "Sony's the one who writes my checks."
Yeah.
Spider-Man. So, like, oh, right, you're right.
Yeah.
But I think this was the first real return to Fox properties that Disney's done since since the buyout. So,
I mean, we had that bait and switch in WandaVision.
yeah.
But
WandaVision, but also at the end of Marvels.
Right, the bumper. Bumper scene.
Yeah, the bumper at the end of Marvel's, like,
and then also, I mean, also technically Doctor Strange and the blah blah blah. They do. It's interesting because this did hold the multiverse concept very well. It was very novel, but I think we're still in for so much more with Fantastic Four being set in a version of the 60s, and so we got so much more still ahead of us. And at some point, people are going to walk away in droves. They just don't want the multiverse stuff anymore.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have been talking about, a lot of the opinion pieces around this is like, oh, okay, well, this is starting to really put an end to the whole multiverse thing. It's like, okay, we've had enough. This is kind of making fun of it, and where we're going to go from here. And of course, thanks to the the wonderful reveal at San Diego Comic-Con that their new big villain that's coming up is of course going to be Dr. Doom, played by Robert Downey Jr. Again, they're going to have to work into the concept of multiverse there, just because you have such a prominent face, a prominent actor playing a brand new character in this, that they're going to have to do something to explain it. And it might be something as simple as like, hey, you look familiar, or
it also could be
also my brother, or whatever.
He could be fucking them up, and if he has to choose a face like happened in Secret Wars, he may be doing that just to fuck with them.
Could be. I mean, it could well be.
That would be a pretty cool plot point.
Play it.
So, Steve, you're very good at encapsulating a film and providing the plot. So, why don't you take us through the 2024 film Deadpool and Wolverine, starring Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, and directed by Shawn Levy. I couldn't think of the guy's name.
Shawn Levy.
Yeah.
So I did a quick little summary here. So, Wade Wilson is not at his best. He's been rejected by the Avengers. He's now reduced to selling cars. He's been broken up with Vanessa, and he's still sharing an apartment with his roommate, Blind Al, until the TVA comes knocking on his birthday. And the TVA takes him in and basically says, we've got a brand new purpose for you. We're going to put you to work. It'll be grand. By the way, we're going to have to prune your timeline, so it's got to go away. So we're just gonna wipe it out. And the reason for that is, of course, it's lost its anchor hero, who happens to be Logan, or at least the version of Wolverine, the version of Logan from the film Logan, where he nobly committed, sacrificed himself. So of course,
it also doesn't make sense with the timeline, but
yeah, absolutely. So
it's just
why me?
It's just a movie.
So Deadpool, of course, goes off to try and find a replacement Wolverine that he can, use to at least reinsert back into his timeline so that they don't have to prune it. He does find one, but unfortunately, it's one who, through his actions and his negligence, doomed his own X-Men to an early grave, and he's down and out, very unhappy. And of course, he presents this new Wolverine to Paradox of the TVA, and Paradox is not super happy, and banishes them both to the Void, where we saw the Void from the first season of Loki. And there, they have to find a way to fight their way back through Cassandra Nova and her army of variants and pruned characters, with the help of some other variants and or pruned characters from a different aspect of the Marvel Universe, in order to stop Paradox from destroying Wade's family and his home timeline. So, I mean, this whole movie is chock full of references and Easter eggs and cameos and special sort of storyline references and all sorts of craziness. And it's really hard to talk about it without spoiling who shows up and how things get done. So we know Cassandra Nova is a big villain. We know Paradox is the villain for the TVA. And we know Wade and Logan go, traipsing through the Void, fighting each other, but also finding common ground. And then, of course, it ends, and there's bumpers. So, not to spoil anything else.
You're basically saying at this point, we're spoilerific.
It's spoilerific, but first, I do want to say, like, how I felt about the movie, without spoilers.
Yeah, go ahead.
I absolutely loved it. I mean, I was in stitches from the first moment, the first dance sequence to NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye, all the way to the absolute final bumper. I mean, I thought it was cleverly written. It's filled with gags, jokes, clever asides. Deadpool, of course, breaks the fourth wall. And if you are not into that, then obviously that's going to be, annoys the crap out of you because he does it all the time.
Yeah, why
it's not your movie. You shouldn't be watching this anyway.
Yeah.
But I thought the cameos that they had were not just clever, but also served a purpose and were fun. The Fox Marvel universe was around for just about 20 years, and the fact that they were able to sort of shove quite a bit of it in, was pretty fantastic. But yeah, it was just a really fun movie. I felt like every 5 minutes I was like, "Oh, we got that," or "Oh, I get that," or "Oh, that that's so wonderful to see."
Or to borrow a Marvel reference, I understood that reference.
I get that.
Understood that reference.
Yes.
But it was just great. So many wonderful gags. A lot of great cartoonish action that normally is so disgustingly over the top that it's almost like watching a cartoon. And I left that theater with the biggest smile on my face, and I was super happy. Can't wait to see it again. I haven't had a chance because, unfortunately, I've been dealing with, the vid for the past week, so I haven't had a chance to go and rewatch it. But, I can't wait to see it again, and definitely something that I will be buying on Blu-ray. Hopefully, if they bring it out on Blu-ray,
they will bring it out on Blu-ray. Don't worry about that.
Hopefully,
these kind of movies come out on Blu-ray.
Yes. So, but yeah, how about you guys?
I'll jump in next. So I've gotten to the point to where I don't know if you would call it experiencing like superhero fatigue. Maybe it's more so that I've gotten to a point to where I'm not crazy about the use of nostalgia for fan service for nostalgia's sake and for fan service's sake. 98% of the time. This movie does that the right way, though. And I absolutely enjoyed it. I laughed. I loved revisiting honestly, the stuff that I grew up with. And we'll get into that later, but you get a chance to really go back and to tap into this long kind of history of these Marvel characters being brought to life in live action film. And they go in really cool ways, right? And stuff that they bring back things that have become essentially memes now to some point, except they treat it respectfully, which I thought was really cool, especially for a movie that actively is breaking the fourth wall and in multiple ways. I thought it was written really smartly. I found myself laughing a lot. I absolutely, Bill, you were talking about, stuff not fitting into the timeline. When you have a character named Mr. Paradox, okay. Yeah. I think it did a really good job of kind of bridging two different things, the Marvel universe as we know it, and kind of the what led us there, right? And I'm trying to, again, to not be spoilerific, but the Fox versions of things, right? And so I thought it did a great job about bridging that gap and really treating them respectfully in a film that is not known for being respect. Everything is a joke, right? When it comes to Deadpool, if nothing is sacred, everything is funny, and it takes that tone and plays with it, but actually treats some of the subject matter and these previous iterations of these characters respectfully, right? And gives them a due that I don't think they've ever actually gotten before, because some of the movies weren't great, right? But that doesn't take the fact away from some of these characters.
Yeah,
and I think that was great. I absolutely had fun, and again, where I've gotten to with Marvel movies, especially some of these movies, kind of cheesecake movies, right? Popcorn films, just pure action films. If I can go there with my husband and enjoy, have a night out at the movies, have popcorn, eat a hot dog, laugh, enjoy myself, that's going to be a win for me, right? Good, bad, or otherwise, the movie. But when the movie is good, it just makes it that much better. So I cannot recommend the film enough. I thought it was fantastic. It's fun. It is just fun, and we need fun right now.
Yeah. I definitely recommend the film. I do think its running length is problematic. It was, as a 90-minute film, it would have been perfect. Yeah. It would have been absolutely perfect. And you could have fit all that in there. But, that's just a trend that we just have to accept, that films are overlong no matter what. And that's just the way it is. And that's just the way it is. I did think I ate a hot dog in your honor when I went, Caleb. I just have to throw that in there. The performances are great. And Caleb, I thought you hit on something that's very important, is there's a lot of poignant moments in this film. There's certain characters that get their codas, in a sense, that were left hanging. One character never got a chance, and he's there. So the meta aspect of that wasn't just, it was very nice to see that it wasn't just treated for laughs, that there was some heart behind that. And I gotta say, like in the bumper, where the first bumper where you actually had a montage of the Fox films. Yeah. And it was all the Fox films. I mean, you saw a little clip of New Mutants, you saw the X-Men Dark Phoenix line, you saw the Trask Fantastic Four. It was a really nice way to wrap stuff up with that. And, also a commentary of, Marvel, maybe you don't know what you have with a lot of this Fox IP. And in some ways that's, it's a very subversive way of dealing with that. There were some lines that were just laugh out loud funny. I actually think, and we'll talk about what, because for me, the funniest line came from the unfunniest character. And I can't wait to talk to you guys about that.
Interesting.
And I did think that the plot was something that made there was a logical, it traveled logically. It wasn't, just throw stuff in there, get to this fight, and then maybe and end with some fucking thing in the sky like half the substandard superhero movies have. We didn't get that. It ties into a lot, but I think like if you never saw Loki, if you never saw the TVA, even if you never saw the Deadpool or the Fox films, there was still enough here to ground you and just to get involved in the story in and of itself. I imagine there were people that were wondering why one actor was playing one part and not another, and then there were laughs about that or oohs about that. And I honestly think that if people went in there cold, that they would still enjoy what they saw. But I will always get down on and they actually even mentioned this in the film, that just movies do not have to be as long as they are right now. And I attribute that more to lousy editing and directors who are treating the primary release as the director's cut. And I wish that there was a home video, since we're talking about that. I wish there was a more vibrant home video market where that kind of is catered to. And it was also funny when I went to my section over there with all my DVDs and Blu-rays, I see Daredevil extended cut, I see Elektra director's cut, I see Fantastic Four extended edition, and that's one conceit that I think would be beneficial if it did come back, because I think by preserving a director's vision in some form, but at the same token providing acknowledgement to some of the complexities of being a commercial film, you kind of had the best of both worlds there for a little while, and I wish that landscape was still a place you could visit.
Somewhere Zack Snyder just became your biggest fan.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that was a lesson that Netflix didn't necessarily learn correctly either, because that's exactly what Netflix did. They went in saying, hey, here's 2 movies that we've already had edited down, but you can wait for the director's cut because it's definitely coming. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, then why are we watching these versions of the movie that are not good? That's
apparently thing. His version was not good either. So
no, it's not.
Well, his his versions are 6 hours long, but they also make sense, or at least more sense than the original version. That's like, who are they? What? Oh, okay.
Wow.
Can I say
now it's like.
Can I say something about the runtime though? And it's not really in defense of. It's more just I kind of take a different tone with it. If I go in and I pay $30 for 2 movie tickets or whatever they cost, $40 for 2 movie tickets, and then I turn around and pay $30 to $40 at a concession stand, and that's $80, like roughly, or what it takes. Give me.
I go to matinees, man. I don't spend that much.
It's usually my husband, myself, and a friend of ours that we all go together. But like, if I'm going and spending $60, right? I'm cool with a 2-hour thing. I just spent $60 to give me the benefit of my time, right? That my time is worth money. So I'm actually cool with longer runtime on movies, right? If it's done smartly, if it's not just full of, if we're talking about Snyder, don't give me an extra hour and a half of 14 versions of, that same song that he likes to play over and over again and everything. But I'm okay with spending a little bit longer in the movie theater. I just spent 60 to $80 on tickets and the popcorn and taking time out of my day. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, if I wanted to see,
I guess as long as the 2 hours and 7-minute running time is filled with quality.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
Even this had some moments that and it still would have been the same film.
What was it? My brain just completely shut off. Long movie from last year that also had Robert Downey Jr. in it.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Oppenheimer was very, very long. Right, I did not notice how long that movie was because it just kept me linked in and gone. Like, if you give me a longer film and you make it worth my while, I'm gonna sit there. So, and to me, it's the benefit of my bargain. But if you give me an hour and like a 60 to 80-minute movie and like half of it's just super slow and I don't care, then I don't feel like I got the benefit of my bargain. So that's just me.
Funny because I just don't view my enjoyment based on the running time, like a 2-hour version that has filler compared to a 90-minute version that's tight and sleek and streamlined. I'm always going to want to go to the latter.
That's fair.
I might eventually see the 2-hour and 7-minute when I don't have anything better to do, but I'm looking at you as somebody who's one of the I believe now rare copies of Zack Snyder's Justice League on Blu-ray. I don't know. I don't view the quality. I understand your argument, Caleb, of getting bang for your buck when it is a social situation like that. But I've also seen the latter with people's laying down like $140 to take all the kids to a Lego movie, and the kids freak out and they're gone in 30 minutes.
Fair. Yeah.
Woo! As a parent, if I were in that position, I would like, no, kid, you're sitting. I'm watching this.
100%. No, I'm like, you can go stand next to the car, but I'm not giving you the keys to the car. So you're going to be like,
I don't care that you're 5. I don't care that you're 5.
Just don't leave with strangers. Mommy will pick you up when the movie's over.
Here's my cup. Go get me a refill so I don't miss the good part. You go do you, right? But I paid for this. I'm staying right here. I think I've only gotten up and walked out of one movie. I think that like.
I've never walked out of a film. Friends of mine in college, we did later make the Moon Over Parador Pact. Moon Over Parador was this terrible movie with Richard Dreyfuss impersonating a dictator. It's dictator. Awful. And all of us, like, if we had just talked to each other, we would have gone. Like, I would have left that, but I thought they were enjoying it enough to watch, So we did make the Moon Over Parador Pact, but we never invoked it.
I don't even remember what the movie I walked out of was.
Yeah, I have.
I do.
I do.
Unnecessary Roughness.
I saw that for free. I saw that like on comps, like
and still overpaid.
Came out. I felt so special. Necessary Roughness with Scott Bakula.
I left that. We were 12, maybe 12 or 13, and it was like a big deal that we were going to see this movie. Yeah, no parents or anything, and we just like, this movie's shitty, and we left after like I think maybe 10 minutes.
I will say in the times that I was working in the business end of Broadway theater, there were 2 shows that I left at the second act because that's a nice break. Yeah, when it's not working. There were 2 instances of that, and some of that is also like, oh, we get an earlier train home, blah blah blah. But I don't think I've ever walked out of a movie.
I've left more concerts early than I've left.
Oh yeah. There's definitely been shows where it's like, okay, I'm here for the opener.
Well, that honestly, that was I was actually not here for the lead band. Like, I'm good to go after like the second or third guy. Like, I'm cool.
My favorite story along those lines. I went to see Eric Clapton once, and this was the 90s, and knowing the set list wasn't as easy as popping it up on Set List FM and knowing what you were in for. But we knew that Layla was the last song. So to avoid the rush to get out of the arena, we, when there's that break in Layla and it goes, duh, 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 and we got such dirty looks that we were like leaving then. I just felt like saying, like, dude, like, I'm never going to hear the second half of Layla again in my life, But yeah, I got dirty looks then. We got dirty looks.
They'll survive. In hindsight, you made the right choice.
Yeah. Well, do we want to start spoiling the shit out of this movie? So
spoil the shit out of it.
Minutes
Absolutely.
Fun talk.
All right. So.
Well, let's just go around the corner. Oh, around the corner, around the diamond here. How leaves?
Go around the corner.
Around the corner. And Alaman, right? So let's just each say who our favorite cameo, for lack of a better word, was.
Oh God.
So I have two. Okay. So one, of course, and it was spoiled in the last trailer, was the return of Laura X-23. So excited for that. I loved it. I love Daphne Keane. I was so happy they brought her back. The second one, of course, being Channing Tatum as Gambit in full, can't understand a word Cajun accent. Just being pure Gambit, and that brought me so much joy. And I had to explain to my husband, there was never a Gambit movie.
Yep.
There could have been a Gambit movie. Channing Tatum and Ryan Reynolds were basically doing the same thing. They picked their favorite character and they tried to get their movies made. And Ryan Reynolds won the lottery, whereas Channing Tatum got forgotten in the dustbin of a merger. And it warmed my heart to see Gambit. I was so happy. But yeah, those were my two.
I will stick with one, and it's probably not a surprise, but it's easily Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. Because that did not get spoiled for me. I did a really good job about trying to avoid spoilers for this. And when I saw Chris Evans come out, my first thought was, holy shit, he's supposed to be done, right? He's done with Captain America. And when he came in and he gave Cap vibes, right? And then all of a sudden he flamed on, and I'm like that's Johnny Storm, right? What the for me, that moment took me way back, right? And I was like, that's because honestly, I don't dislike that movie, right? It's for of its time.
I don't hate either of them.
Yeah.
I don't hate either.
They were fun. I enjoyed them.
I really liked Ian Ruffle, whatever the hell his name is. I really liked him.
Ian Griffith. Johan Griffith.
And so, when he came on and he hit the flame, I was like trying not to stand up and clap. I was happy clappy. I was like, because it's exactly what I was talking about earlier, right? It is a bridge back to the past where we get this character, where we get this person, like we were introduced to him in that movie as a superhero. And he went on to do amazing things as Cap, but he got his foot in the door playing Johnny fucking Storm and a young version of that. And he did it. Like, I love the conceit and the concept of an older version of Johnny Storm, right? And it just, I was so happy to see that. Gave me a lot of feelings.
Yeah. That was also my favorite, was Evans as Johnny Storm. But I will have to say, the person who had the absolute best line from this was Jennifer Garner as Elektra.
Yep.
They were talking about the other people who entered the void, who disappeared, who were vanquished by Cassandra, and they bring up in Daredevil, and Deadpool says to her, "I'm very sorry to hear about Daredevil," and she just replies, "Yeah."
Okay with that.
Yeah. It's okay.
So we do have a couple people who joined us here and have their own responses. So we've got Cliff on Comics.
Yeah.
Amber brought me pure joy as well. Blade was my favorite thing while in the theater. And I do have to say,
I can understand
Blade being
that.
in it was so much fun. And his comment, like, I'm the only Blade that will ever be. And just like, yes, please.
Even though in that point, even though Ron Reynolds was in a full mask, it was still a double take.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really hard to put over. That's really hard to put over.
And then we do have Vince Tenebra joining.
Hey, Vince.
So we could talk about spoilers here.
Absolutely.
I did clap. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm just I'm happy. I think, and this is something that we touched on a little bit. If we went into or if any viewer goes into this movie not having seen any of those old, Fox superhero Marvel movies from like 2000 all the way up, because of course they started with, well, actually no, even before that, for the first Blade. So you had the first Blade.
Was not Fox.
You also had, I thought Blade was Fox.
No, Blade
was that New Line.
Yeah.
That was New Line.
Which is why there was no footage of that. And also something else that Ryan Reynolds tried to make happen but didn't was Nick Cage as Johnny
That
Blaze.
I did hear about that.
Yeah.
Right. That was sadly missing.
Can I have an honorable mention as far as cameos go?
Oh, absolutely.
Tyler Mane coming back as Sabretooth. That was A, cool, and B, it led me to be like, what's Tyler Mane been up to? Because I haven't seen him in a while. Yeah. And so I looked him up. That man's fucking hot.
Yeah. I mean, he's been aging like a fine furry wine for the past 20-some years. Yes.
That's exactly in your wheelhouse, dude.
That is I've never.
That's like you making AI art.
Digital Ray Park as Toad. Yeah. But I mean, they threw so many people into this one. I mean, you had
also some of the meta references were so great. You know, it's very well publicized about how badly Wesley Snipes got along with director David Goyer and with Reynolds when they shot Blade Trinity. And, you know, there were some acknowledgments of that I thought was really cool. Another reference, I don't know if you guys knew about this. Remember when they're driving over into the void to fight Cassandra and Jennifer Garner is driving? Do you know what that's from?
No.
Okay. Jennifer Garner was such a good driver when they were making Alias that they cut down on the stunt budget, and she got and she entered the stunt woman's union so that she could do all the driving scenes.
Oh,
isn't that cool? Like something like that worked in there.
That's cool.
Yeah, it happened. A stunt woman was sick. They wanted to get the shot. They said, "Can you do this spin out?" She said, "I'll try." And then she ended up doing almost all the driving for like the last few seasons of Alias, and actually had to join, you know, whatever the area of AFTRA is that deals with stunt performers. So that's like awesome. That's a deep dive, you know, in terms of the meta aspects of it.
Of course, they also had the, you know, behind the mask cameos, which, you know, you don't see the actors, but of course, you know, you find out afterwards who they were. Very similar to what Star Wars does. You know, people are always wanting to be stormtroopers because they love to be on the set, even though nobody knows it's them. But of course, the army of Deadpools afterwards, you know, Lady Pool, of course, was Blake Lively, which was also apparently a meta thing that I didn't know about until afterwards, that Rob Liefeld had designed Lady Pool based on Blake Lively from...
That sounds like great. That sounds like Liefeld retconning his own mind, but okay.
Right,
it could be, but it would have been Blake Lively back in you know, whatever show she was on a while ago. Yeah, Gossip Girl. But you know, so
kind
Blake
of a
Lively
reference to the Gossip Girl there too. You know.
Yeah.
So
Kid Pool was his daughter.
Hang on, Steve. Let's do a pop quiz on this. Do you know who Headpool was?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm trying to
Mr.
remember who it was. Nathan Fillion?
Yep. Nathan Fillion. Okay. Do you know who Cowboy Pool was?
Yes.
As soon as you say it, I'm going to know.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Matthew McConaughey.
Yes, it was.
Okay. And also Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' kids are some
kids. And then also Welsh Pool was one of the players from the Wrexham Football Club. Mm-hmm. So if you do watch that show or know of or follow the Football Club, like
and Tom Holland's
just silly. And Tom Holland's brother, yes, Tom Holland's brother was also in there as one of the pools.
And speaking of that particular scene, how great was it that they gave such a spotlight on Peter?
Yeah, right.
That was so great.
Peter's the best. Did you notice the way his straps kind of hit? Because that's all I was looking at. But anyway,
you and the TVA divisional head. Yeah,
absolutely.
So apart from cameos, just going back and talking about some characters who were not cameoing, who were actually main characters in this, I actually was very, very impressed by Matthew Macfadyen. I love Matthew Macfadyen. He's probably the most well known. He's Mr. Paradox, right?
Yeah.
Probably most known for Succession. I think that's probably how most people would know him from his modern roles. I think he did a really, really great job playing just somebody that you really love to hate. And he does that character very well.
Yeah. Amazing comedic timing.
Yes.
Amazing comedic timing.
Just straight faced too, most of the time.
Yeah.
He for me was actually one of the standouts of the show. I mean, everybody else did what I expected them to do, but I was not expecting him to come out as strong as he was, right? I only know him really from one thing, but he comes out with this show, and he's that guy in corporate America, right? That you just get, like, he's trying.
He's the guy that has his own little principality, and not necessarily everybody above him knows what's going on, and we've all dealt with them. Yeah.
And you just know he's working, like he's doing stuff, and he's going to put it on you. He's going to rip the rug out as soon as something happens. And you just get that. Like, he was very tuned into who that person was. And I thought that was really, really well done. And to me, that's not a comic book thing, right? That's something that bridges over and that goes into any kind of genre, any kind of film. And I really can't wait to see what else he's going to do. I mean, I loved him in Succession. I loved him in this. He's a very strong actor. In a surprising way, and so I'm really excited to see where his career goes.
Yeah, and speaking of villains, Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova. Yeah. I mean, she had that very slick, evil way of performing this villain. I mean, when you have all the power in the world, you can do anything you want. It was just so easy for her. She sauntered everywhere. Like, she wasn't in a hurry to do anything. And I think that helped.
No, she didn't have the opportunities that Paradox did. She has some very funny lines.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. She's got some great and all deadpan, because she can be. And, speaking of her interaction with Chris Evans, that wonderful, whole exchange where, Torch here said that blah 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 blah. It's like, oh my god, did he? Oh, that's terrible. just
such a great meta line. Do you know what that was doing to the budget?
Right.
Like, just a great meta line.
Just wonderful. And also,
I have to say, Logan really is the capstone to.
Well, I was going to say we're burying the lead here,
but with what he did in this one, it's a more it's a tastier coda, if it is. It's brighter. It's he gets to have a bigger range, I thought, than somebody that knows that he's in his last days. And there's some, I don't want to say redemption, but there's some sense of resolution for him. And
he gets a happy ending
gets a happy ending,
which he's been denied in every other movie, every other Wolverine movie, essentially, including the X-Men movies. There's a lack of a real happy ending for him. And Logan, of course, is the final. Well, and you die. Die of everything that's been happening to you. Poisoned by adamantium and killed by your.
I don't know that I've ever laughed as hard in a superhero film, though, as I did with Deadpool using the adamantium skeleton as just a murder parade, and just destroying.
It was nice to see that tradition from 1 and 2 continued in here, because all 3 Deadpools have phenomenal opening sequences.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal opening sequences. Something else I read, that apparently Ryan Reynolds wrote most of the Gambit dialogue, which I found really funny.
That's
almost torturing the guy. Some of that.
Well, but and of course, Channing Tatum he's from, I believe, from Louisiana, or so he does hear that, so that that joke about like, oh, who's your dialect coach? We need to have a talk with them.
The
It's
minions,
like, well,
yeah,
actually,
the minions.
yeah, who's the minions? It's like, well, actually, some
And
I think
people actually do have that
so
accent and are impossible to understand.
It's also nice to see in a movie with Deadpool that there's somebody else that's even more over the top than he is.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
at least one sequence. Yeah.
But it was really so. Look, Gambit is a character that I have a love-hate relationship with in the comics. Sometimes he's great. Sometimes I want him to be what he was in the the '97 cartoon. But it's just something that he's going to be hard to get right. I love that in a movie like this, where you have Deadpool and you expect gratuitous violence, right? And you have Wolverine and you expect gratuitous violence from those two people. Some of the most gratuitously violent scenes in this were Gambit, and you see Gambit hits people with cards, and they don't hit them and they bounce back, right? They explode, right? Like he rips a man in half with his staff. I don't know that we've seen Gambit have this much of a violent tendency, or his powers used in that way, even in the comics. I don't know that we have.
Also, I mean, just Blade aside, Elektra and Wolverine got their chance to end X-23 in a sense.
Oh yeah,
really got their
slice it
really
up.
Got their,
Take it out Juggernaut at the ankles,
unfiltered. Yeah.
So. It was just a bloodbath, and to see that done while we're also getting a really, really, really well done and much needed viewpoint of the different versions of Wolverine that should be like to see Wolverine presented as he should be, like Wolverine being like 4 foot tall,
5 foot tall,
just a little packed up.
I'm accurate, right?
Berserker Wolverine with the big hair, right? Like that was like this was
or
what I was
Age of
saying.
Apocalypse Wolverine on the cross on the on the X. That was brilliant.
It is fantastic,
but actually,
right? And it is nostalgic.
We do have
weaponized in a great way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and of course we did have that other Wolverine cameo. And Cliff puts it here, Cavalrine.
Yep.
Which was such a great reference because people have been talking like, oh, Henry Cavill will be a great Wolverine. He should be the new replacement for Wolverine. I don't think he wants the job, but he got to be Wolverine for a split, maybe 10 seconds in this movie, and damn, he's huge. Yes, sir. Yes. Apparently he hates cigar smoke so much.
Yeah.
And he had 8 hours the whole take. He was like, 8 hours of cigar smoke. He's like, this is the worst thing ever. I hate this, but
yeah.
But he put up with it so he could, so everybody could see him in in an AT with all the chest fur and the thickness.
All in all, though, setting all of that aside, I absolutely getting back to actually the plot of the film, right? Yeah. I thought they did a really good job. I'm personally over the TVA. I'm over time. I never liked time travel again. When they came out with Kang, I was like, all right, I'll go with it here. But I've never liked Kang in the comics.
I've always hated Kang.
Yeah,
we've gone through this. It's such a dumb character design. It's such a overused concept.
Yeah,
never really feels like a threat.
I think this is the best version of the timey-wimey bullshit stuff that I've seen yet, because it doesn't take it seriously. It's okay with the fact that they can't make it work and that it's dumb to try to take it seriously. So I was very happy with that. It kept me locked in, right? I appreciated the interludes of, again, gratuitous violence that jumped into the story and to Bill's point, extended it, made it a little bit longer than maybe it needed to be. I think that's fun in this sense, but I thought the story, the plot points were really great, right? It had some gravitas to it that I was not expecting from a silly character like this, and from these kind of just I don't know how to put it, right? These kind of, it shouldn't be as serious as it was, but then they show you these moments and it's heartfelt and it has weight to it, and then he makes a one-liner and it brings you back. It's like, oh yeah, this is what that is. To see the Cassandra Nova, the pain that character exuded, and why Cassandra did what she did, where she was coming from,
Uh-oh, he's frozen.
Oh, frozen.
Sandra got him. But until he comes back, I also thought the line that Logan offered about Charles would have loved you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was.
Yeah.
That was,
yeah.
That hit.
I mean, there were some moments here where it just, the fact that they were included in this, it wasn't just to be maudlin, but also to kind of, illustrate that they do. He's still frozen. That they do absolutely love these characters. That like all the stuff that they're presenting is, is something that they care about. Like they care about these characters. They care about these references. They care about these story beats. Oh, and he's popped up. He'll be back.
Okay, I was just about to eye up him that try to leave him.
I love it.
I'm totally screenshotting that image. It was he kind of looked like he kind of when Tucker Carlson would get like all shocked at something somebody said, Yeah,
like he has that
kind of like that
face on.
I didn't know he's gonna hate to hear that. I know he's gonna hate to hear that. But...
Yeah, he's like, you compare me to Tucker Carlson, you monster. You're no longer friends. Friendship is over.
Is he not?
But I absolutely love this. Here he is. He's back.
Okay, good.
Woohoo!
Okay.
The internet ate my poignant diatribe. Oh,
Caleb, you're gonna hate me for who I compared you to.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you play back the videotape, that's when you're gonna want to hit me.
You're not gonna tell me, are you?
You kind of look like when Tucker Carlson would get like mock shocked at something a guest said. Yeah, he's gonna hit
like this. He's like, turning it off now. Turn it off now.
How dare you, sir?
You are all dead to me.
Dare you? All right. So for me, my only disappointment was the end credits did not say Deadpool will return. That was my only disappointment. And we get a big clue right at the beginning of the movie that suggests his story in the MCU isn't over. So it would have fit. So
yeah.
And that I won't spoil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I definitely I really enjoy this movie. I can't wait to see it again. I can't wait to own a little piece of it. By getting the physical media on it. Yeah. Yeah.
I just hope we get more Dogpool. I hope we get the Pet Avengers at some point, and it's got Dogpool. That's what I want more than anything.
No more Nice Pool, and I really enjoyed Nice Pool.
Nice Pool was funny. So
funny.
I do have a story about Dogpool involving my husband Jason. So leaving the movie, Jason is he does not like hyperviolence. He is not a fan of super violent films and especially stabbings. And of course, what does Deadpool do more than anything other tand shoot people is stab them with everything handy, with his swords, with knives, with
adamantium bones.
Adamantium bones. Lots and lots of stabbings. None of that fazed him when Deadpool has Dogpool lick his face for like 3 minutes solid on screen. That was the moment that Jason was like, I was going to be sick. He told me, he's like, I had to look away. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. He hated Dogpool licking Deadpool's face. Like that did it.
It is a legitimately hideous animal. Like
it is. It is.
Like I'm a fan of possums, and even I was just like,
well,
yeah.
He found his love.
That was
his love, and that's important. And everybody's gorgeous to somebody.
And, Vince here. What about the Thor hug?
And I guess we kind of just referenced that. Yeah.
I mean,
so we let Vince spoil. I said I'm not going to spoil it, so I just let Vince do it.
Yeah, we don't really see where that's from.
I'm going to place it in Secret Wars.
Probably
because that's the ideal vehicle to bring everything into the mix. So.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that
coming in 2026.
Yeah, and I also have to say it's kind of nice, we don't have that many comic book movies this year.
Yeah.
It's basically the Joker sequel, Madam Web, and Craven, and Venom. And
So
the
not many,
Sony
so
films
5,
feel
6.
so to the side of all that anyway, that it's nice that it's not like a year where it's loaded with 10 films, that they're spaced out, a bit more. And I'm sure once DC Studios gets going and Marvel picks steam back up to compete with them, we'll probably have a hell of a lot again some years. But
well, next year I
don't mind not seeing one every 2 months. I don't mind.
Yeah.
Yep.
Less than that sometimes. Yeah, less than that. Yeah.
All
right. Awesome. So good snicked and yeah. Yeah, snicked. All right. So on the Comic Book Bear, since we are a comic book based podcast, something we do for people who may be tuned in, and this might be the case because our numbers for our past movie reviews are huge on the new YouTube platform. So I'm really hoping we get numbers like that for this one. But something that we do for people who may not normally tune into a comic book related podcast because of the source film that they're talking about is we talk about an arc featuring major characters from the film in comic books that we think you might enjoy. Now, I normally would start with Steve, but Steve always goes for the obscure and always the female characters for some reason. And I think Deadpool and Wolverine probably should get top billing. So let us start with Caleb. Caleb, take us through a book that you picked. That you think people who enjoyed this film may enjoy.
Yeah, I'll both take you and talk you through a book. I can do both. There's a obviously Deadpool is a kind of a beloved character. It's rare for Deadpool not to have an ongoing series, and there's been some great ones, right? You've had obviously the OG. You can go all the way back to the original, the New Mutants '98, or even the Fabian Nicieza Deadpool stuff. There's lots of it to it, but there's also been some really good. I don't know what you would call it, mini-series, maxi-series featuring the characters that have came out. Famously, I'm not sure if any of you are going to talk about them, so I don't want to get too much into them, but like Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe was a lot of fun. But one of my favorites is actually Deadpool's Art of War. And this is a mini-series. It's a 4-issue arc written by Peter David with art by Scott Koblish. And it's fun because it both plays with a piece of classic literature. It's very smartly written by Peter David, but it throws the mix of ridiculousness of Deadpool into it, right? So Deadpool has been sent back in time. He's been paid by we'll get to that. So Deadpool rolls up back in time, and who does he happen to stumble upon but Sun Tzu, right? Who is talking about how he's got this art of war, and so he rolls in and he's just like giving a soliloquy, if you will, about where he came up with the concept and how he got famous. He's like, I wrote this thing about the art of battle and understanding how it works, and I'm a master of it. Well, it got picked up by the emperor. He found it. He invited me to the temple, to the castle, to kind of talk to him about it and convince him to why I'm an expert and to prove it. And so he said, okay, if your art of war is that good and it's truly it'll work that well, then prove it. I'm going to give you 100 people, and you're going to show me what they can do, right? And he's like, but I'm going to give you 100 women, right? Not my trained soldiers. I'm going to give you 100 women, and so and 2 of these are the emperor's favorite concubines, and so he rolls up and he talks to these 2 the emperor's concubines, and he's like, okay, you 2 are the leaders. Turn left. And the women kind of snicker. They giggle a little bit. He doesn't say anything. He's like, all right, turn right. And the women do the same thing. They just kind of laugh, and they're not sure what to do. And he says, okay, rule number 1 in anything, when you give orders and they are vague and obscure and not followed, that's on you as the leader. If you give orders and they're specific and they're pointed and you know exactly what they say and they're not followed, that's on your soldiers. And then he beheads the two women. And of course, these were two of the emperor's favorites. So he's just like, "That's you, just bro. Like you tooketh my nookie. That's not okay." And so he's like, "No." But now watch. And he looks at the rest of the women. He says, "Turn left," and they all turn left, turn right. And by like the end of an hour, those are some of the most fearsome people in all of the land. And so he proves his point, and the emperor makes him a general. And about that time, a sword bursts through his chest, and Deadpool takes him out. And Deadpool's like, "Hey, I was hired by the offspring, the family of those two chicks you just killed. And so I came back in time and took you out. Oh, what are those scrolls about the art of war? Oh, that looks neat. I bet that has uses that can be done outside of just war, like maybe, I don't know, business." And so he takes the scrolls and he goes back to the future and he's like, "I'm going to write a book." And then he goes to a publishing house and they're like, "Yeah, no, it's the art of war. This has been done a million different kind of ways. We're not publishing you." And he's like, "No, but I have a really good idea. What if you use this for, like, for hostile takeovers?" And they're like, "Yeah, no, it's been done. You're late on this." And he's like, "Well, what about it?" So eventually it gets down to the point of you've got to do something different. You've got to use this and show us how you can make this, or we're not giving you a book deal. So the entire story is really Deadpool using this as to try to get a book deal. And his big genius idea. He's like, "Well, I've obviously just got to. I need to use the art of war to show people about the art of war, and that's how I'm going to prove it." And so his big idea is to start a war. What's the best way to start a war around the globe? Obviously, with the gods. Well, who's one of the most heinous gods that's always looking for an excuse to take over the world? It's Loki, right? You got to those Norse bastards are always messing stuff up for everybody. So he goes, and all of a sudden it's, he goes to find Loki, except for Loki's a kid, a young boy, and he's just like, "Well, whose fault is this?" And it just says Matt Fraction. And so you get some meta moments in there. And then he goes, and it's Loki being a woman, and it's like, "Well, who did this?" And it just says Straczynski. And so it goes through those moments where it breaks the fourth wall. But eventually he goes back to the OG, to the Jack Kirby Avengers version, and he gets that version of Loki. And they go to war. They start out in Asgard, and they trick Thor into falling into a trap. And throughout the 4-issue series, you see these different versions of the character. It does in fact spill over to the Earth. You see Spider-Man. You see the Hulk. Actually, right before this, I looked up to try to see if I could find this really great page of Scott Koblish art where he's drawing the Hulk, and because I wanted to buy it, and apparently it's not out there in the world. It's already owned by somebody. Although there are still pages from this book, of Scott Koblish art available, that I may actually pick one or two up, because uh, they're not indecently priced at the vendor. But it's a really fun series. If you are looking for a way that you don't need to know all of the continuity of Deadpool, you just kind of need to know maybe the basic movie version of Deadpool, who he is, the fact that he's got katanas and guns, he likes to kill, he's always getting up to quirky antics, he's got fun one-liners, he can't die. Then check this out. It's been used in a lot of different ways. I know a lot of the internet, the app games. I think basically Marvel's version of Candy Crush uses some art from this. There's lots of places that this has been referenced. Peter David is not necessarily my favorite Deadpool writer. He's one of my favorite writers. I've got a shelf over here with just a shit ton of Peter David in there. He's not the funniest writer of Deadpool. He's not the most hyper violent writer, but he does have a good handle on what the character is, and he uses it really smartly. I don't know that many writers would be able. Lots of people can write Deadpool. I don't know many people could write Deadpool and also write Sun Tzu. Right, write the Art of War. I know. Was it Cullen Bunn who basically did Deadpool versus Moby Dick? So there's lots of versions where they bring him into classic literature, but Peter David does a fantastic job with this, and also legitimately rolls through the finer points of the Art of War, and so you get a taste of classic literature with just the grotesque, really Western version of the bastardized literature of comic books. I don't know what else you say of these of what Deadpool is, right? This really 90s hyper violent, nothing is sacred, everything is funny kind of thing. So it's widely available. You can get a collected edition of this fairly cheap from many online vendors. Your local comic shop probably has it in the back issue bin. And if nothing else, you get to enjoy some really, 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 really beautiful Scott Koblish art. And I like that a lot in this. So Deadpool's Art of War. I think you would do well to go out and find it.
Okay, thanks. All right, I'll take the other main star. And something that's been talked about on this show is that Jason Aaron cannot write team books. And I think that's generally true. That's something I'm in agreement with Caleb about, but he came close once.
Yeah.
He came close, and this is almost a team book. And the book that I want to talk about is Wolverine and the X-Men. And Steve, I think you have a graphic you can put up there. And this, God, it's so long ago. It was 2011 that this came out. It doesn't feel that long ago. Yikes. It grew out of Regenesis, which was one of umpteen X events. And where they were at this point is Wolverine basically became the headmaster of the school. And, again, they're in Westchester on the grounds of the Xavier Mansion. And he is going to put a new faculty together to train the next generation of mutants. And he gets some pretty heavy hitters. He gets Beast. He gets Iceman. He gets Kitty Pryde as basically his number 2. Husk is there. There's even some non-mutants like Deathlock who are on faculty to teach the new mutants students. And this was also kind of a breath of fresh air. Apart from the first like 2 issues, this really did have like a fun feel. And when you think of what was going on, this was right in the middle of Avengers versus X-Men.
Yeah.
So the Avengers line, Avengers, New Avengers, Avengers Academy, those were all deathly serious books. X-Men Legacy, deathly serious. Adjectiveless was deathly serious. This was the one book in the mix, though, that was kind of a bit of a lighter tone. And that was kind of refreshing if you were keeping up tabs on everything that was going on then. The art was by Chris Bacallo initially, and then Ramon Perez comes in for an arc. But Chris, until there's a second version with Jason Latour writing, he's there for a lot of it. So where they start out, it's a new system. And Steve, if you can just show some of the other graphics here, there's Logan actually in a dress shirt and tie being the headmaster. And revealing some stuff about himself that he never went to school. He's not qualified. They got a bunch of mutants helping out. It's refreshing here to see Toad being the head of the janitorial staff on at the mansion and at the school. So they're mixing a lot of stuff up from X-Men history. So word gets out about this school, and they're going to, admit some new students. One of the Shi'ar hears about this, so Gladiator's son comes to the school, but he also, since he's royalty, can't go alone. So Warbird is there as sort of chaperone. It's a really weird mix of people, but sometimes it works. Some characters behave a little bit out of context. Steve, if you can show the next one. The next graphic here will show it in full. There's Bobby planting a kiss on Kitty, and they actually do go on an actual date. There's also a kiss between Logan and Storm later on in the run that comes out of nowhere. So there's some weird interpersonal stuff. But the main action is pretty fun and keeps your attention. I only reread before we did this the first volume, which is still in print. Yeah, go ahead, Caleb.
If you ever needed proof that canonically and historically Iceman was gay, it's worth noting that when he's kissing the girl, he's still got a jazz hand happening. He's just like, yeah. Like if you're listening at home, go find this image. maybe Steve can send it to me. I'll see. I'll hook it up on the Instagram. But yeah, he's definitely got a jazz hand happening.
But the initial attack, because a school, it's like every writer has to have their moment where the mansion or the school is destroyed. So that happens right at the beginning because of the new Hellfire Club. One of the other students, Kid Omega, has connections to the Hellfire Club. And you see that there, Quentin Quire, who was introduced during Grant Morrison's run on the X-Men, but he finds like, hey, this is kind of fun. Screw the Hellfire Club. I'm just going to hang with the X-Men. And some of the other students, there's a Brood that's in there. There's an Apocalypse variant. There's all kinds of like really cool students, and a lot of them form unlikely friendships. And there's some really funny moments in there, and some really novel moments. Again, as I said, the Hellfire Club, destroys a lot of the mansion. They find that Kilgore, who was in charge of the Hellfire Club, accidentally registered some stuff in New York State under the Hellfire Club name. So they bring in Matt Murdock to sue them for the damages instead of doing a big battle. So there's like a lot of really funny stuff that those quirky turns that Jason Aaron throws in often, but isn't always successful. In this particular context, he was. And I recommend the entire series. It basically, kept most of the quality up. There's some weird stuff that goes on, but the series itself has such a quirky feel. And even through the middle of this, it's really Logan. It's really Wolverine in this. It's not just Wolverine as, as a figurehead. I mean, these are actual Wolverine stories in the middle of what effectively are new mutant stories. And it works. It works more often than it doesn't. And especially, as I said earlier on, with this came from the Avengers versus X-Men era, like almost its entire run was, kind of in its shadow. Like it was a breath of fresh air when everything else was played dead seriously, pretty much. I don't know if you guys read this back then, but if you did, I would your input here.
See, I didn't read the first volume. I read the second volume of Wolverine and the X-Men that took place after the whole AVX thing.
Well, that's like actually like the third or fourth. Yeah, that's down the road.
Yeah, I mean, there's been.
What year did you say this came out in?
2011.
Yeah, so this was kind of in that bubble where I wasn't really reading much Marvel or DC stuff.
Okay.
I was reading a couple of things, but that was kind of in my super traveling, doing construction work, riding my Harley, and living in a camper situation. I'll tell you about when I'm older.
Sounds like I got to hear when I'm older. Well,
yeah. Are you old enough to be listening to this?
I don't know if I'm old enough to listen to that stuff. But, again, I wasn't reading a hell of a lot of Marvel, but AVX did, A versus X, sorry. It really did drag me into some stuff, to some books that I normally wouldn't, particularly like Secret Avengers, and that's basically like my discovery of Hickman more than anything, more than any other book there, because Secret Warriors,
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't touch that. So I just have fond memories of this being the lighter book compared to the other stuff that was going on, and I liked that stuff a lot. I liked Avengers versus X-Men a lot. I thought there were a lot of cinematic stuff, and when you think of the writers that were involved, then it's an all-star. It was an all-star lineup for Marvel then, but this book was something different, and I have fond memories of it.
Yeah.
So. Okay. All right, Steve, who is the character that you're going to talk about, and what is the comic arc that you're going to discuss? Please provide.
So, again, because I do like sort of like the secondary or the not obscure at all character, but I was really excited to see that in Deadpool and Wolverine, they brought back Laura X-23 because I love her character. She became the all-new X-Men, the all-new Wolverine, back in, was it 2015, 2016? Right around the time where Logan was killed by being encased fully in liquid adamantium and just basically became a statue. And so Laura stepped into her shoes, and Tom Taylor wrote an amazing series of all new Wolverine.
That is even earlier than I thought. 2015 was when that started.
2015.
Yeah.
And so I was, I loved all new Wolverine. It was great. It went through, I believe, until late 2017, early 2018. And then, of course, they brought Wolverine back. Logan Wolverine back, and so
he got better.
Laura went back to he got better. Like they usually do.
I feel better.
And then, I'm fine. I feel happy. So Laura went back to being codename, X-23. But through her Tom Taylor series, she ended up picking up a sister. Yep. Originally, there were 3 other sisters, but one remained by the end, and that is little Gabby, aka Honey Badger, at this point. And so the series that I'm talking about is X-23. I believe this is volume 4. This is the 2018 X-23, written by Mariko Tamaki, who I absolutely adore. Love her writing, love her independent stuff. She's a very prominent queer cartoonist and comic writer. So, having her take this character who's just had a really amazing run and having to reset her, as X-23. So sort of taking a step back, but now at this point also having a younger her, a little child her who is not, horribly damaged psychically and emotionally, who doesn't have the same baggage that she does, but also at the same time didn't have the same mentor that she did. She is now, where Wolverine was her mentor, the kind of, brought her out of her shell and it's sort of into a new shell, because Logan's not exactly the most emotionally stable person either. But here she is with this absolutely ecstatically bubbly 12-year-old equivalent girl, who's just a younger version of herself, and she has to kind of take care of her. Oh, also, they do have the actual Honey Badger Jonathan living with them in the apartment in New York. But so basically, Mariko's just kind of hitting the reset button on her. And although the series was only 12 issues, I know it was originally planned as an ongoing and then just kind of essentially became a maxi series. There are several storylines through this 12-issue series, but I'm just going to talk about the first one, which is the first 3 to 4 issues. And in it, basically, Laura and Gabby are fighting the Cuckoos. These are the sisters, the clones, originally 5, then 3 of, the White Queen herself, Emma Frost. The 3 are, of course, linked psychically, although they do sort of have separate personalities. And at the beginning of this series, it's essentially, 2 different ways of being clones. Laura and Gabby are, of course, clones of each other, but they couldn't be more different. And right. Mariko does a wonderful job, sort of showing the big personality differences between the 2. Gabby is silly and funny, and she, she's a kid. She wants to do fun stuff. Of course, a lot of that involves, killing and, smashing things. And Laura just doesn't know how to be a parent or a big sister, but has to kind of learn as well. And I think Mariko does a really great job capturing this. And then she contrasts that, of course, with the Stepford sisters, with the 3 Cuckoos, who are single-minded, more or less, in their purpose of just bringing themselves back to 5. And so what they're trying to do is use sort of clone technology, including some of X-23's DNA, in order to bring back the 2 sisters who have died, Sophie and Esme. What they don't realize, of course, is that Esme is very evil and has her own plans for the rest of the Cuckoos. And in fact, kills Sophie again, sort of in the sidelines. So the art on here is by Juan Cabal, who does an amazing job with sort of the dynamic physicality of Laura here. Just like Wolverine, she twists, she turns, she jumps all over the place. She's flying all over the place with claws. She, of course, has the additional claws in her toes that allow her to do certain things that Wolverine couldn't do. And there's some really great playing with the panels and the gutter space and all of this. But in the meantime, you also have these quiet moments too, where you have Gabby interacting with the different cuckoos and being Gabby's bubbly self, but then also having to try and reconcile with the fact that these girls are trying to kill her, or at least use her body as a vessel for Esme, so that Esme's consciousness can have a healing, almost immortal body, to take over and sort of regain her ability to be alive. And with the help of Sophie, or Sophie's consciousness, then latching on to Laura, they're all able to kind of figure out what's going on, stop Esme, and leave the remaining cuckoos sort of to be, to follow their fate. I thought this was a great story. It's a really good illustration of Laura as well as Gabby, and their relationship, as well as how they, approach problems and sort of enemies. Because again, at this point, the cuckoos are kind of an enemy, kind of not. I mean, they're part of the Xavier School. They're there, or at the Jean Grey School at this point. There are students there, and but here they are doing something horrible. So, but I think this book is a great story. There's several other stories in here that are a little bit uneven, but they all sort of illustrate and keep coming back to that same theme of like Laura having to kind of, understand who she is without Wolverine's guidance, but also being responsible for, kind of being a role model for this younger version of herself who kind of doesn't want to be a loner, grumpy person. And this series is the first series where Gabby chooses her new name rather than Honey Badger, chooses Scout as her code name, which is what she currently has now. Again, this came out in 2018, so this is right before the whole Krakoa and Hoxpox thing happened. So it's setting up X-23 in a very different way than essentially she got roped into in the past 4 years. But I think it's really interesting. I think it's really great illustration of her, and a really great quick series to read if you want.
I think this was right before Secret Wars 2 as well. I can't remember.
Secret Wars. No, I think
Was
2016 was Secret Wars 2.
Gotcha. Maybe that was older. Yeah. Because we didn't see her for a while. Also, shout out to Tamakis for winning an Eisner or 2 this past week.
Yeah. I think this is her second. Yeah, I want to say it's her second Eisner.
Yeah.
I am very excited about her on Supergirl and Action Comics.
Yeah,
I loved being Super, and I'm ecstatic to see what she does with the character in the proper universe. Yeah. And from what I understand, the backups are going to be collected together in there. So
cool.
So that's how they're going to be. The Supermans are collected together, and the Supergirls are collected together.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
But I think I think why I like X-23 so much is because Wolverine has had since the 70s like so many books, like so many solo titles and miniseries and featured roles in different in Avengers comics and X-Men comics and all sorts of like team ups and everything.
The only Marvel character that exceeds it is Spider-Man. That's the only Marvel character that exceeds it. I'm sure that it exceeds his appearance count.
Yeah, and then you have X-23, which I know people were kind of pissed off that she became the replacement for Wolverine for a couple of years, but
like incels,
you gotta have
like incels.
Yeah, I don't know, like
yeah.
There was. It's like they made Wolverine
really
a woman.
Wolverine
now.
is going to stay dead. Jesus Christ!
It is kind of ridiculous.
These people need something to complain about if we haven't seen that in full display over the past 2 weeks.
Oh my God!
Absolutely.
Well, we may as well say, since the last show, we now have the Democratic vice presidential candidate known, and Tim Walz, and in that honor, I wore my Purple Rain T-shirt because God knows it's not going to be a Viking shirt, and Steve's in purple, so I guess there's some acknowledgement of that. I have to say, Caleb, I really got sad reading your post about, because again, Coach Walz, about the negative experiences you had with coaches in the past.
Yeah.
And I was so sad to read that, because apart from one dick on soccer, I had very positive experiences. And I wish that's something that was extended to other people. And then we've mentioned some of the projects he's been involved with in the past year. Dave Cobb, Bears, you know who Dave Cobb is. He had posted about a teacher he had grown up with that was reminding him, and then that got me to thinking of somebody in my life. And Steve, I know I had talked to you and Tito about Bill Molnar on his passing and how much that affected me.
Yeah.
So I certainly hope you had somebody else in your life that had that.
I did.
Yeah, it just sad that it wasn't as a sports coach, because it is a very particular type of relationship. Yeah.
I was making a very specific point with that post. I also had some coaches that meant the world to me, right?
Yeah.
Some, not only coaches, but teachers in general. I had some great ones. So it was not an all bad experience.
Yeah.
What you're talking about, I put up there was a moment in Coach Walls' life where he was both the head of a state winning football team and also leading his high school's GSA. He was their academic advisor. And the point I made was I did not have a GSA at my school. We did not have anything. And in fact, I had some coaches that, I had one coach that regularly liked to use a certain F slur. I had coaches that the girl I dated in high school had short hair. She was a tomboy, and who's now a raging lesbian, as I am a flaming homosexual. But he likes to ask me how my boyfriend was in front of other people, and I wasn't out yet and stuff like that. So I was just making a point that, hey, as coaches, you can go one of two ways, and that sports really should be available to everyone. And that's part of this larger cultural thing that we're seeing now, where of trans kids getting excluded from playing sports, and really you just need to let kids play. Like, gay kids being in the locker room is not going to change anything. It's all just ridiculous. And what you can do is, and the point I was making is, I fell in love. I thought I hated sports because of some bad experiences, and I didn't. There was something in me that realized that, hey, they're actually talking about me, and I hated being made to feel like I should hate myself.
Yeah.
And I grew to love sports in spite of that. And also I had some amazing teachers and some amazing folks. So that wasn't all negative experience. But I appreciate that.
Yeah. There was also a very brief period where I was a coach. Female swimmers. Very
cool.
brief. Yeah. And that was another thing that was kind of cool, because on the internet, there's some materials from the University of Kentucky. And that was one of the 3 schools my dad went to, because he kept getting kicked out of schools. And at the time, the student life there was about, seriously, it was 91% Greek. Everyone was in a fraternity or sorority, and my dad was the coach of his fraternity's baseball team, Pi Kappa Alpha, and it's just nice seeing Coach Zanowitz, on the internet. It was just really neat seeing it. So, go Coach. Yeah, let's do this. All this fucking stolen valor bullshit from biggest charlatan in the world out of his mouth. Jesus Christ. Oh God, I want them to burn, and I want them to crash and then burn again. Oh, it just gets me so upset. So let's not end on that note. Let's end on the note where we usually do for our shows. In the first segment towards the end of our journey is something we call Geek Gets, where we show off something that we got in the time between the last show. I don't have that many. So I don't know what other people have gone through. I don't know, Steve, is that new for you?
It is new for me. I picked this up the last time I grabbed a bunch of posters from Pennyworth's. He does like to leave a whole bunch aside for me, which is great. And this is for the Deadpool Wolverine World War III miniseries that is currently going on right now. It's a pretty cool poster, and I totally forgot who did the art for it, but it is very nice. So I love it.
By a nice artist. Okay.
It's a nice artist who does nice pictures.
Caleb, how about you?
I do. I have some geek gets, I have a geek get, and I got a couple geek gots, and I'll go through them real quick. So, behind me, you'll see a poster for this is for a series that came out more years ago than I want to recount. But it's Thunderbolts. It was a version. It's called Thunderbolts Red. It was a version of that. If you enjoyed seeing Elektra on screen with Deadpool, as I did, go check out this series. It's super fun. I
Awesome.
really love it. It's
So
got
good.
Agent Venom. It's got Red Hulk. It's got Punisher. Obviously Deadpool. You get to see Punisher knocking boots with Elektra for a little bit. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So go check out
I
this
think
series.
Blade comes in briefly too, doesn't he?
Does. Well, there's a
Yeah.
couple of there's a revolving cast, so there's a couple of
Yeah.
people that come in
Yeah.
and out. So, but it's really fun, and it's a very good version of Red Hulk as well.
Yeah.
And then the second geek got thing that I've had for a while, and then you saw it just a little bit earlier, but it comes out of 1993, and that is Deadpool #1, graded. It's a 9.0, signed by Fabian Nicieza. Uh, and I love this, and I think personally, I don't want to get into the long and storied issues of who did what with the character and who deserves what credibility, but regardless of where you come on down on that, Fabian Nicieza did a lot to really flesh out who that character is and was, and kind of fill in the gaps. And so I appreciate having that. I don't have a copy of New Mutants 98. I wish I did, but I don't. So that's a fun series too if you want to go read that. And then my geek get is going to be a comic, and that is out right now. This is called The Life of Wolverine. Go check out your local comic shop. They should have it. It's written by Jim Zub. It's got art by Ramon Box, colors by Hava Tartiglia, and then Joe Sabino does the letters. If you enjoyed the Wolverine montage where you see all the different versions of Wolverine, this walks you through it. It's a fun little history lesson, and in the back of it's really cool. So it actually gives you a list of comics that the references come from. So if you have, a stack of cash and you want to go back issue diving to find some of these moments, you can. I really like this for that factor right there. It just shows it off. And Jim Zub is a good writer.
Yeah. Love Jim
and so this was fun. So if you want to know more about the history, maybe you don't know a lot about Wolverine's history, right? Maybe that's just not your corner of the world. Pick up Life of Wolverine, or #1. It's a one shot. It's fun. It kind of walks you through the full history very briefly. So those are my geek gets.
Okay, cool. So my geek gets, the last time I saw Steve, when I was at his place, we did end up watching the Brat documentary regarding the Brat Pack in the 1980s that Andrew McCarthy directed, but it was also based on his book. So I got a copy of the book. So that's going to be some reading down the road. I also, I pick up esoteric stuff when I can, and I could not pass up a 1975 paperback about Robert Plant. There's no way I could do it. Just thumbing through this. This is a couple years before Hammer of the Gods. The main biography of Led Zeppelin, which a lot of it's turned out to be bullshit, but it's written in that mid 70s like sensationalist, I'm a rock god manner, and it looks like it's a lot of fun. And then in terms of the comic book stuff, I did get, in my travels, I've been trying to find the next wave of the superpowers figures from McFarlane, and I have some of them on pre-order, but there's two that I don't. And so I've been trying to, so they're slowly hitting targets. Thankfully, God, they're hitting targets finally, and Walmart. But they haven't hit the ones by me. But I did pick up the DC Ushis. I've gotten a few of these in the past. These are pencil toppers, but they're really cute. So I got Wonder Woman. I got the Chase version of Robin and Aquaman, but the one I really want to get, which I didn't get, and hopefully people might be able to help me out. It's only $1. If you see there, one of them in the new batch is Hawkman, and I really want the Hawkman Ushi, which sounds like a sexual position, the Hawkman Ushi, and that may be something we instill into the bear parlance soon, the Hawkman Ushi.
Are we going to have to figure out how that what that position looks like?
I think so, but through some trial and error, bro. Yeah.
I volunteer as tribute.
We'll workshop it. Yeah.
A volunteer's tribute.
All right, well, we're going to move on to our final segment of an episode of the Comic Book Bears podcast, and that's something we call the Woofs of the Week. In the bear community, if you find a fella attractive, you woof at him. And we do something very similar to that, where we woof at something which may be comic book related, but it also may be a film or a TV program or a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener, or potentially viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll start as I always do with Steve. Steve, what is your woof of the week?
Well, this is sort of like a throwback woof of the week. This goes back way, way, way to when I was but a wee child in the late 80s, early 90s. And it is probably to a flashback of maybe a character actor that you may have not thought about for I don't know how many years, and that is Jim Varney. This week I was able to get the Hey Vern, It's Ernest collection, which was a children's show that Jim Varney produced along with his frequent his contributor, something Cherry, Brian Cherry, I believe it is. Basically it was just 13 episodes of him, playing his characters along with a bunch of other, comedians that he's worked with for a long time in such classic films as Ernest Goes to Camp and Ernest Cared Stupid and Ernest Saves Christmas, which this brought it all just flying back to me because I had completely, forgotten about it. It's over 20 years ago since the last time I've seen anything with Ernest P. Worrell in it. And just rewatching that and, reading up on his life and, how he got started and everything. It really brought me a renewed appreciation for Jim Varney as an actor, as a comedian, and as just an all-around good guy. So I was really excited to be able to see that again and sort of relive those moments. It's not exactly like the best kids show you've ever seen. I mean, it's not going to win you over if you were never an Ernest fan. But for those of us who really loved, Jim Varney's characters, it's good nostalgia food. So if you can find a copy of this anywhere out there, you can probably find it on DVD. It is well out of print. It is Hey Vern, It's Me, Ernest. The TV series from this is gonna be hard to try and figure out. 1988. So yes. Hey Vern, Ernest.
I think people might have a little easier way of finding it because I do believe it's one of the series that is currently in rotation on MeTV Tunes.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't want to be quoted on it, but they do have stuff like Police Academy, the series, and Freakazoid. It's not all just the 40s, 50s, 60s stuff on that channel. And I believe if Ernest isn't in rotation, it's scheduled for rotation.
And it is available digitally, so Fandango at Home, which I guess is kind of like Voodoo. You can buy the whole series digitally. But it's if you're wanting that nostalgic bug, go for it.
Cool. All right,
Ernest Scared Stupid is an all-time banger. Just yeah.
I don't think I've
an old-fashioned Swedish Miak.
I've ever watched an Ernest film or anything.
Probably has made me laugh harder in my life than anything else I've ever seen.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was probably watching quality television.
Like probably were.
Like hanging with Mr. Cooper. All right,
he's out.
Okay.
Hey, look, I was a UPN kid, so I was kicking it with Mr. Cooper too. So I was with it.
That was a line we wrote for a play. Like I only watch quality television, like hanging with Mr. Cooper. And Roseanne delivered it perfectly. Yeah. All right. Anyway, go on, Caleb. Tell us what your wolf of the week is.
All right. My wolf of the week goes out to a moment in music history that we got to witness this week before last. Yeah, a week and a half ago. At the opening ceremonies of the Olympics in Paris. We got to see one of my favorite metal bands, one of the best metal bands, in existence right now. The band Gojira, which is a French band who is incredible. We got to see them hang off the side of a castle and play a French Revolution song with a headless Marie Antoinette and an opera singer. And what is, I think a lot of people are saying is one of the largest global moments in metal in probably the past 20 years, if not ever, as far as just putting it back, because we don't see a lot of that anymore. It was incredibly cool. Downloads for Gojira has gone through the roof. People are finding them for the first time. It's bringing a whole new generation to metal. So if maybe you saw that and you're like, hey, that was stupid cool. Like those dudes were hanging off the side of the castle, and like literally they were so loud that rats erupted from the sewers. It was a whole thing, like fucking metal. I would recommend that you go find their album Magma. It's one of my favorite albums by them. I absolutely adore it. It's got some incredible songs. So Liberation's the last song on here, and it's one of my favorites of theirs. Super fun thing. Go check them out, learn more about them, and just go listen to some modern metal and enjoy it. Let it like wash over you, seep it into your soul. It's fantastic. And if you happen to think, oh, metal, those guys are weird, they sing about death and all that stuff. Gojira sings a lot about saving the world. They sing a lot about saving whales. They sing a lot about just making us better and fighting global warming and those kind of things. So they're very conscious. I can't remember if we talked about this last time or not. This might have been my wolf of the week the last time we were together. I can't remember.
I think it was. I think you brought it up as almost like a perspective wolf of the week. You did bring it up.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember.
It hadn't happened yet.
Because it hadn't happened. It was the day.
Okay, that was what it was. It was everything I wanted and more. I got to see Gojira hang off the side of a castle, and they were perfect. And there was red streamers, and they were so loud that rats erupted from the sewers and scared people. It was metal, it's actually having an impact, and it's bringing metal back to look. Metal's not in the forefront of music anymore. It's just not.
Rock isn't at the forefront.
No, at all. It's gone to pop and hip hop, and give them their due and give them their credit. I'm a big hip hop fan too, so I love seeing it. But there's a talent that comes with metal, and I'm hoping this leads to a resurgence in a moment, and that I got to see Gojira rip open the Olympics with metal. So fun stuff.
All right,
I think it's probably the biggest metal occurrence since Sweden's "Give a Helping Hand," maybe. There
were metal acts at Live Aid.
Yeah,
Black Sabbath reunited with Ozzy, and Priest also played at Live Aid. So that may have been the largest audience for that, but this probably was bigger.
Well, Donington
40 years ago.
Donington was a big audience when they had Metallica and AC/DC.
Not globally. Not talking about global TV.
No, not global range, but just as far as number of people there. But globally.
No.
I can't think of when the last when that much reach got given. And the fact that it's Gojira of all bands is really, really cool. Gojira was a favorite band of
probably what was the drug dealer rock manager. Doc McGee.
Barry Farrell?
No, Doc McGee. When he did the Moscow Freedom that Freedom concert, I think that had a huge international audience. Yeah, that may have had a huge international audience. Maybe Scorpions at the Wall Coming Down.
Maybe, yeah.
Big. Yeah. Ooh. So there probably were like some moments in there that were kind of in that wheelhouse, but certainly everything that I'm referencing is, over 35 years old.
40 years ago.
Yeah.
Years ago.
Yeah.
This made my heart happy.
That's nice. My wolf of the week was also the Olympics. It's been really nice. I've been so stressed out with work, and it's nice that I'm in the background. I'm seeing Simone Biles make history. I'm seeing the U.S. shot put team, which if you dig bears, you will dig that. Today, Steph Curry basically single-handedly bringing the U.S. team back. They were down 17 points. 17 points in the semifinal. So we've just seen, amazing, the track and field events have all been fantastic. It's been great to have that on in the background. God, I'm going to miss it.
The swimmers.
Yeah.
What's also been
female athletes, like God bless them, because they are just destroying everything. I love it.
Well, and even some of the new stuff too. I didn't realize that I would really enjoy skateboarding at the Olympics.
Oh,
and it's hilarious. Speaking of the female competitors, all of them were like teenagers. They were kids, and the amount of joy on some of their faces just by being there. Going up for a trick and then like bailing and like, falling hard on the ground and then getting up with a big smile going like, oh, well, that doesn't happen with other Olympic competitors. Olympic competitors usually, tend to be very either stone faced or like, oh, fuck it,
Yeah.
But especially, what was her name? Pope, I believe. She was one of the competitors for the women's skateboarding finals for the U.S. Oh, she had her headphones on. She was like, all right, she was cheering on all the other competitors. It just brought me such joy.
You just hit it. Like one of the sports I enjoyed watching the most was 3x3.
Yep.
And it's basketball, but it's not. That was that whole feel to it. I didn't see like the breaking, and I didn't see some of the new sports. I think they may be holding that for tomorrow night for NBC's broadcast.
The breaking I think is today and tomorrow. So
because there is some stuff that's happening. I think Friday and Saturday that are like actually happened like Tuesday and Wednesday for the whatever they call it, the Paris in prime time or whatever. And
the rugby sevens this year.
And fucking
so
Snoop
much fun to
Dogg.
watch.
I mean, he's probably the best ambassador we have culturally right now, which says something, and poor Colin, he's like, I don't know if you've been following Colin Jost, he was able to convince NBC to let him be a thing because he's such a big surfing fan and he injured himself so much just walking around that he was in the Olympic medical tent more than the athletes. So, it's been good coverage. That's one thing that's really been good. It's been really good coverage. A lot of people who are retiring or being retired. So you do hear a lot of voices that, this is my last Olympics. Out of the calls team. If you do have a chance, though, there was a sailing event, and the guy calling the sailing event was like Sominex. It was like when you were watching it. So everything's on Peacock if you have that access.
Yep.
So
they fixed all their problems from the last Olympics because Peacock in the Tokyo Olympics screwed up so bad you couldn't watch anything unless you're watching it live, and it was terrible. But if you have the Peacock app now, they fixed it.
Yeah,
you put up with all the commercials.
We don't have the Peacock app. We have NBC Sports through our cable system, and it's basically the same feed. It's basically the same stuff. So we initially were just going to get Peacock for a month, and all of a sudden, hey, look what's on NBC Sports. It's basically the same stuff. So.
Yeah, they've got their multiplay where you can watch like 4 different events at once, and then you can, just like Sunday Ticket or something. You just pick which one you want to listen to, but you can watch all 4 of them at the same time.
It's starting, fellas. So I think we got to wrap this up.
And what do we do when we wrap things up?
When we wrap things up, we wrap them up.
Yes.
So again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on the social media platforms as Comic Book Bears, save for Facebook, where we are Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to listen to us, you can access through Apple Podcasts, through YouTube's podcasts, Spotify, many of the other podcasting platforms. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. And until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
If you're listening to the audio version, you're going to hear a woof and an explosion. We'll be back in probably 2 weeks. Take care, everyone.
Woof.